as well. So hilarious that I didn't get that started. So everybody will get that little notification that I'm now recording. We're going to go ahead and see if we can go live on my Facebook wall. I can. Good. So we're going to do book club intro and overview. Then people can join us again if they've missed it. Okay, so let's go back, shall we? Not all the way to the beginning, but let's at least go back to the part where the spirit of fear is about a power and of love and of a sound mind. And so the idea is, in some of what Sean has done is, my whole body doesn't hurt. You know, like today I literally have had a stomach cramp. Well, I've had a stomach cramp for about 2 days now. And today it had nausea with it. But what I focused on wasn't just my stomach. It was like, okay, but my brain still works. My eyes still work. I didn't have a headache. I felt, I felt exhausted, but I also gave myself space and time to rest, right? So instead of enveloping, I'm never going to get over this. I'm going to be sick for the next week. I have a lot of things coming up, and kind of letting my mind get away with me. I pulled back to what I could control and prayed for a sound mind, for love, and for power that helps me overcome the fears that are bestowed upon me. And I'm sure some of you can relate to this as well. Harriet Lerner says, unhappiness is fueled by 3 key emotions: anxiety, fear, and shame. They are the uninvited guests in our lives. And as I, show this picture of the really nervous person public speaking, I used to tell my speech and debate classes that people feared talking in front of others more than they feared dying, more than they feared a lot of other things. Like they would rather do anything but speak in front of someone. And what happens in overcoming those fears, or finding ways that we can confront those fears if we need to, in order to do something better, then we release sort of the hold that they have on us, and release the power that we're giving over to the fear. So Lerner goes on to say, Dr. Lerner says, when tragedy or hardship hits, anxiety, fear, and shame may become our constant companions. Anxiety can wash over us like a tidal wave, or operate as a silent thrum under the surface of our daily lives. And so she tells stories in her book from her therapy sessions. Sometimes they're hilarious, sometimes they're heartbreaking. We're not just talking about fear light, but we're also looking at the most difficult lessons the universe sends us. No one signs up for anxiety, fear, and shame, but we can't avoid them either. So as we learn to respond to these 3 key emotions in new ways, we can live more fully in the present and move into the future with courage, clarity, humor, and hope. And at the end of the book, me, I maybe I haven't told you guys this. Have I ever confessed that I read the ends of books before I read them? I do. I don't want to know that it's going to be bad news. I just don't want to know that the story's not going to end with a happy ending. So my family laughs at me, my sister-in-law in particular. She's like, how do I want to be surprised? I will look up spoilers on TV shows, et cetera, et cetera. But what I know from the Dance of Fear is that I went into the end of the book. So if you go to the last chapters, Courage in the Face of Fear, and the epilogue, Everyone Freaks Out, this is a good place to start, because we want the good news at the end that it's all going to be okay. It's all like, we may be afraid, but but everyone feels afraid. And it also helps if we learn to befriend that and recognize that we're not alone in our fear. So I really, really love, I really love sharing that with you, because I think it's really important. This is the last paragraph of the book. So like I said, I'm starting with the end. When we think about fear, we tend to focus on a particular fear of something, such as planes, elevators, dating, illness, or failure. Far more daunting is the challenge of how to conduct ourselves in the dailiness of love and work when anxiety is chronically high and shame kicks in. This is the human condition, right? And we've learned through self-compassion this year that recognizing our humanness is one of the ways that we show ourselves compassion, because we realize that we're sharing this sort of feeling in common with others. As we've seen through the book, we needn't let anxiety and shame silence our authentic voices, close our hearts to the different voices of others, or stop us from acting with clarity, compassion, and courage. Instead, in today's world, no challenge is more important than that. So I love that we're going to start in May reading through from the beginning or wherever you choose to start the Dance of Fear book. One of the recommendations, if you've ever read, I'm just going to stop share for a second. If you've ever read The Gifts of Imperfection, this is a Brene Brown book that also, this is kind of born out of her TED Talk on vulnerability. And so this is another really good side book. But again, we're not adding more books to the pile, but this could be one in the future that you might want to pick up. And this is actually, I think, her 10th anniversary printing of it. So the others look a lot different than this one. But I will post in Heartbeat under the book club tab. I will, and I'll show you how that works in a second. I will post the link to her video on vulnerability and other resources that kind of go along with the Dance of Fear. So as you're reading, you can kind of be taking in these other sorts of thoughts as well. Brene is a sociologist, a research sociologist. So Dr. Harriet Lerner, my book's on my Kindle. She is a psychologist, and then we're bringing in Leeana Tankersley for the spiritual side of things. So I'll be giving you those resources throughout the summer to just sort of kind of enhance what you're already reading and what you're studying. And then when we meet in May, on May 30th, we'll discuss kind of what you read in the Dance of Fear, where you're at with it, where you got stuck, what are some quotes that really speak to you, so that we can just have some dialogue around that. Let's see, are there questions that are popping up? Yay, good. I do eat dessert first, Lucinda, sometimes. You're right. Of course I do, right? Right? Why would I save it?
I love that.
I know. I mean, really. No, not all the time. But yeah, I've been known to have ice cream instead of real food, for sure. Okay. Okay, so how this connects to Atlas of the Heart, like I told you before, which is Brené's encyclopedia. Avoid the quote that she uses is in the section called "Places We Go When Things Are Too Much or Uncertain." So remember, I said that's one of, I mean, again, when we don't know the outcome of something, like if I don't know the end of the book, I'm afraid, right? I mean, I know that that's a really simple example, but I think it's a good. It makes for a really good, I just think it makes for a really good analogy, right? That I would rather know the end of the story before I begin. And maybe that's part of my avoidance, but it helps reduce my stress, reduce my overwhelm, anxiety, worry, avoidance, excitement, dread, fear, and vulnerability. So this whole section in Atlas of the Heart deals with, acknowledging what is it exactly that I'm feeling. Is it anxiety or is it dread? Is it fear or is it a vulnerability piece? Is it stress or did I add too many things to my plate and now it's overwhelmed? So getting really clear with with naming your feelings will help so much sort of narrow down even the bigger idea of fear when you think of what you're afraid of, or the dance of fear, as Dr. Lerner calls it. I'm going to revisit this story from Elizabeth Gilbert. It was either Elizabeth Gilbert or it may have been, I thought it was Elizabeth Gilbert, but it may have been Glennon Doyle. But anyway, this idea that we store memories that we ruminate on over and over and over again, and we cement those fears into our brain as a shame spiral. So again, I'll be putting things into Heartbeat that have to do with this concept as well, right? To take it to that next level, and like, how do we unpack acknowledging that this is a fear and not just let ourselves go down the same track that we've gone before. And those of you who've been with me in Soul Care Sanctuary, we do that through aroma freedom. We do that through resets. We do that through picking your feelings are valid from our feelings wheel. You know, Linda, you have one of these pillows now too, but having,
Yeah.
having a way to talk about what we're feeling will help eliminate or at least reduce the ways that we fall down the shame spiral. So then to follow up then in June, I'm going to start off the beginning of June with an overview of Brazen. Leeana was actually a resident in San Diego when my mom and I hosted our first women's retreat. So she came out to Carlsbad and did a presentation with us about Brazen boards and spent 3 hours with us going through this topic. That was in 2018. And I really appreciate her style of writing. I really appreciate that she's spiritual without being overly in your face religious. It's not a Bible study, but it is a group study about how do we kind of step out of what we've learned about fear in May, and then really start to ask ourselves, am I enough? Do I really know who I am? Am I playing small? If God, I like this question at the end, if God is calling us to shamelessly recover the woman he created us to be, and what if God is urging us to be, for the first time in our lives, brazen? And she actually defines brazen as without shame. And that is moving from shame and fear-based living toward lives that are based on love and belonging. Her examples and her stories and her guide through this are just really powerful. And she actually, the book is pink on purpose because she declares the bougainvillea petals that you see blooming right now. In fact, I noticed them today at a neighbor's house. They had them interspersed with white oleanders. It made such a beautiful bloom. But looking at how brazen truly the flowers are, the bougainvillea flowers, and God saying to you, I see you and you're on the right track. Keep listening and keep creating, and I love you. She said, one bougainvillea bloom says all that to me. And she just recognizes that when she sees the bright blooms in Southern California for her during her time there, in this book, she says, the paper-like petals that have left the vine and are scattered here and there seem to blow off the vines easily in our breezes, and so they're strewn all over the ground. A few flashes of hot pink at my feet on a neighborhood run or in the tall, wheat-colored grasses around my house are like nature's confetti. So just giving you a little taste of what her writing is like. I read somewhere that bougainvillea symbolizes protection. I can see that. Not only is it beautiful, but it also has sharp spines that can poke you if you're not paying attention. And it also vines in a way that creates thick hedges of protection. Somewhere else I read that bougainvillea symbolizes passion, which also works for me. I'll go with both. Protection and passion. Seems like just about everything a girl could want in life. And she also encourages the reader to begin a practice called 20-minute soul time. So in my 20 minutes of soul time, I ask God if there's anything he wants to tell me. Over and over again, he says, follow your inner artist, honor your inner artist, listen to your inner artist, welcome your inner artist. And she talks in more depth about soul bullies and how we can, again, go through that process of creating that strong that strong mind and power to overcome the fear that lurks around the corner. So don't you love that? Like just even knowing about the bougainvillea, right? Like just such a beautiful illustration and just a different, a more poetic way to sort of come at the fear conversation rather than the storytelling I think that Dr. Lerner is going to kick us off with in her book. Which is all great too, which is research-based and all of that. But I think this will be that next stage of what do we do with knowing this information. So here's how I've kind of laid it out. And Carla, I texted it to you wrong earlier. We're going to try to, I have to stick to Thursdays just because of my schedule with swim lessons this summer, and I have to start at 6:30. They will be recorded and they will be more interactive than tonight has been. Tonight has been more of a this is why I selected the books that I've selected. But Dance of Fear tonight, we'll do a little bit more of Dance of Fear June 6th. I'm sorry, we did a little bit of an overview tonight. So then the end of May, these are only a week apart. The end of May, we'll do a little bit about Dance of Fear. And then June 6th, we'll do a little bit more with Dance of Fear. And I think 2 sessions should cover it, even though they're close together. Even if you just open the book in the next few weeks and then you really read it between the 2 sessions, that could work out. And then I spread out a little bit, July 11th through August 1st. I ended up putting August 1st on there too, so that we had more than one session to look at Brazen. And August 1st is right before kids start back to school. So I thought that might be able, at least here in Arizona. So I thought that might work for some of you as well. So on Heartbeat, where the QR code leads, let me just show you what this looks like. So when I was designing Soul Care Sanctuary, I didn't want to do it on Facebook. Like, I've been doing Smart and Spiritual Women for a while now on Facebook, and that's all really good and all the things. But Meta controls what people see and what notifications people get. So the thing that I really, really still love about Heartbeat, even though it's a brand new app for a lot of you and it's really kind of hard to navigate, is that it is its own entity. So you're not distracted when you go here to find things, because it's not notifying you that you have a business event in the morning, or that somebody liked your post from 3 weeks ago, or that you have an advertisement pop up. So I'm gonna keep our Soul Care Sanctuary here, and I'm just adding in Summer Book Club as part of the free portion. So people who are in the challenges group also have access to Summer Book Club. So when you look at the app, when you download Heartbeat and you sign up for Soul Care Sanctuary for the free section or the other one, you can go to Summer Book Club, and this is where the information will be about what we're studying. This is where I also have information from when we were doing the book club about doing grief in real life last fall. So some of you have the recordings from those. This is kind of what I'll do with the summer as well, putting in, the mistake I made with my grieving. This was a side article that went along with our reading. So similar to that, Summer Book Club will kick off, and then I'll start new threads that have to do with the Dance of Fear to begin this month, and then we'll move on to Brazen by the end of the month. Does that make sense? Does that help to see it kind of laid out? Those of you in Care Circle, you know that you have access to these other things as well, right? Like my notes about Care Circle on Monday nights, our sharing spaces, our texting back and forth. We did get that changed, Lucinda, so we should be all set for the Care Circle catch-up times for the 2nd and 4th Mondays, even though Memorial Day might be a bit of a crapshoot. All right. But Summer Book Club is free. So when you sign up for that, it'll give you access to it, and then it'll send you automatic email reminders that we're joining on Zoom, or that something's on the thread that you can go look at. And that way then you can kind of keep it all straight. Does that make sense? Yes, Miss Carla. I know you're going to be in Colorado. I saw the end of your text.
Yeah.
My friend Carla, everybody. Say hi,
Hi.
Carla.
I'm technically challenged. So like the thing you just showed us, is there an invite you can send to me to
Yes,
get
I will.
connected with that? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I'll send that directly. And those of you the rest of you are already in the group, but you can send that same link to somebody else. So I put it in my email this week as well. It does have it is a new thing, Carla. It's not just you.
It's my fear button.
It's the fear button. Exactly. I mean, those of you who are showing your screen, how many of you are like so frustrated with the Heartbeat app? Yeah, it is like, it's a hit or miss conversation. But as far as organization and low distractions, those are the pluses that keep me coming back. I talked to another friend this week, and she's like, I think you're on the right track. Don't, because I was going to pull off and go somewhere else. And she's like, don't, just stay. She actually said, this is, again, maybe more information than you need to know. she's in a group with like 70,000, in a Facebook group with like 70,000 other women. And that leader said, I can't be on Facebook anymore. Like she's inviting all of those people from that group to come over to a different platform altogether. It's just hard. And I know Facebook is live streaming this right now and we love you, Meta, but it's really, but it's not, but I can't do it into a group anymore. It has to be to a page. And there, you know, like there's just so many different rules now in using Facebook, not to mention the distractions as well. So, okay. So do you see why I threw in a couple extra books or one extra book? I only threw in one. I also just referenced Brene, my two favorite Brene books, but you see kind of why, like Dance of Fear is a good start, but I didn't want to end there. I don't want to end in fear. I want to end in Brazen. I want to end in what do we do with this information? Where do we go with this? Where do we find compassion and clarity? Where do we find courage? And that's where I thought Brazen really spoke to that. So Linda, thanks for, so Chanel, I think you're the one who was like, Dance of Fear, I want to read it. And I think Linda, you were the one that was like, Brazen, we need to read that. So okay, we're just throwing them both in and we're going to extend. Oh my gosh, Lucinda, you're already on it. That's so good. Okay, so that's where that, and are y'all okay, like continuing this into August, and then we'll kind of see where the August 1st. Okay, and then we'll kind of see where it lands us. Oh, I'm excited. The rest of what I have for tonight is doing our monthly sort of reset to look at, again, the subject of fear. So we'll do this on June 6th as well, and also on August 1st. But my favorite modality to overcome limitations or limiting beliefs is starting to scramble the neurology with essential oils, because we have inevitably, we have, oh, I have two of these. Oh no. We have inevitably run sort of the mower through our brain with the same responses to stimuli. And now we have a groove cut there. And so what we do when we use essential oils and aroma freedom is we scramble how those mowing lines kind of play together, because our olfactory scent, our olfactory response to scent changes the limbic system. So we start to scramble a little bit of our normal response to something fearful, something that makes us nervous. So let me show you, let me get back on my scripture, my script here. So in order to address the feelings and teaching our brains about the protection of fight or flight when it comes to anxiety and fear, we also can get more specific about how we feel. So this is an app that I downloaded on my iPhone. I think there is an app on Android as well. It's called the How We Feel app. And I have mine set up to remind me twice a day to sort of check in and see how I'm feeling at any given time. And then I can select one of these feelings and kind of tell sort of what's going on in a sentence, so that I have sort of a gauge of how I'm feeling from time to time. And I love giving women this resource because it's free and because it just helps us get in touch more so with what we're experiencing in the moment. So how we feel, but we're going to come back. We're going to dive into how we're feeling at this moment with an aroma boost or an aroma reset. So if you think about something in your life that you're not feeling clear about in your relationships, your family, your career, your finances, your health, you know, it may be one of the fears that popped up earlier. It may be about your material desires, about kind of your future, and you're feeling kind of muddied about it. Maybe it's one of the fears that we looked at earlier. Let me go back to those real quick. Fear of being seen. Maybe it's one of these. Fear of being ridiculed, fear of not knowing enough. There's one that stands out more than another. Kind of bring it to mind for yourself. Let's go ahead. Dr. Perkis is the designer, developer of the Aroma Freedom technique. using essential oils to transform your emotions and realize your heart's desire. So I'm indebted to him for his work at doing this and setting this up, bringing together our thoughts with our emotions, with our bodily sensations, with times that we felt the same way. And every month I offer an aroma freedom session on usually the third Thursday. So May 16th will be that time. So identify whatever the situation is that's particularly troubling to you tonight. If you're feeling some of that anxiety or fear in a particular situation that you're facing, whatever that might be. It can be something mundane, it can be something huge, it can be something upsetting, it can be something minimal, maybe a bad interaction with somebody. And then name the feeling that describes how you feel about the situation. So what feeling do you have about it? Is it fear? Is it anxiety? Or feeling anxious? Is it feeling insecure? Some of the other ones on my pillow under fear are worried, worthless, insignificant. Is your response more of an anger response or a sad response, a disgust response? And then locate the feeling in your body. Where are you holding on to that feeling? And I'm yawning because that's what I do when I start to talk about my feelings. That's what happens to me. My eyes are tearing up and my body is yawning every time. Identify the negative thought that goes along with this situation. I don't have enough time. I can't forgive him or her. Oh, there's that yawn again. So now that we've brought to mind the situation, the feeling, the bodily sensation, and the negative thought, you can just grab, if you have a citrus fruit, or if you have lavender or frankincense or stress away, you can also grab all three of those together. That makes up the memory release mixture, which just smells heavenly and is just one of those kind of custom mixtures we've created to go with the aroma freedom. And you're just going to cup your hands over your nose and mouth, whatever you have handy, whatever oil you've got handy, and smell the oil through your nose into your olfactory gland. Picture it going into your limbic system while you think about the negative thought, the feeling, the bodily sensation, and your situation. Sometimes tears will come, sometimes you'll let your shoulders down a little bit more. Sometimes you'll remember to unclench your jaw or relax your face. Remember, this is just a 60-second aroma reset. So if you need to go back because it reminded you that that wasn't really the situation, it was really something bigger or deeper or something that you'd kind of put off, you can go back and identify another situation or another feeling that comes up when you think about that or feel about that situation. Maybe there's a different body part where you feel that feeling. Identify the negative thought. Smell the oils. And we're going to move into a time of affirmation. So if you need to take a couple of notes and try to get kind of clear for yourself on like what's off, that might be a good journaling topic. Coming up in a couple of weeks, we'll do a full Aroma Freedom session together, but you can always go into my past ones on YouTube and do one again. Is there an action that you need to take next after you've sort of started to scramble that situation in your mind's eye? How will you feel when you've completed that action? Or, geez, sorry. Or, this happens every time, y'all know. Or, is there an affirmation that you need to tell yourself, like, this is temporary, like a reminder? I am enough. I will get through this. I am getting through. I am choosing this. And I know some of you are struggling with some things right now in your family situations. It may seem impossible. So is there an action around that, or is it just an affirmation that you need, that you want to speak over your reality right now? Remember, if it's an action, to name a positive feeling you feel when you picture it happening. So if it's somebody that you need to talk to, or a conversation that needs to be had, or it's an actual physical shift of something, I feel excited in my arms as I move these boxes. And then we're going to choose a power pose. And you can do it standing up or sitting down, that expresses the energy of the statement. So I'm going to sit down tonight because my stomach is just weird. I don't understand it. So you can put your arms above your head. Power poses, just again, it's based on work by Amy Cuddy out of Harvard. And the idea is that power poses, even just standing in a power pose 2 minutes a day, can really shift your confidence level when it comes to things that normally would scare you or that you would avoid. So power pose, it's a very open pose. And it can make you feel pretty vulnerable just to be in a power pose. It's making me feel super vulnerable tonight just because I want to protect my belly. I've been having stomach cramps for the last couple of days. But my arms are straight up above my head. Energy of the statement, because I know that I will feel relieved. I feel relieved when I do the thing that I say I'm going to do. You can fill in this blank with what's more specific to you. You can put on a new oil if you want, something different than the lavender, stress away, and frankincense. Maybe I just grabbed believe, maybe transformation, maybe purification, whatever it is. Probably need a little peppermint on my belly. That would be a good one to grab as well today. And then who are you going to be accountable to? Is it something that you want to come back? Those of you who are in Care Circle, is it something that you want to come back and share in Care Circle about as we prepare for Monday? Is it something that you want to tell a counselor or a therapist? Is it something that you need to just record in your journal? What's the accountability to get that action done or to see through your affirmation? Remember that we can do all of the healing ourselves, but without that partnership of accountability, sometimes it just ends with us, right? Begins and ends with us. So that's part of the reason book club makes so much sense in a group. especially when we're talking about big topics like this and fear, because it allows us to share openly and vulnerably, to really talk about things that matter in real life without needing to give or receive any advice. We're just learning from each other, and to keep our eyes open for what God is teaching us through our time. And then, of course, always allowing for grace, which I love from C.S. Lewis. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. Why I feel so tearful tonight. That's part of this. So next monthly Aroma Freedom session is May 16th. That's the full hour-long one. You can also text boost and it'll give you another round of reminders to do the boost, just like we just did the reset. And that concludes the formal presentation tonight, minus the tears in my eyes, about just being open and being ready to embark on something as life shaking, right? As vulnerability and trust and authenticity. I mean, really, I think if I'm being truthful, those are the pieces that I feel are the antithesis to anxiety, fear, and worry, right? Can we be authentic? Can we live in courage? Can we embrace our vulnerable selves? And so it just brings me a lot of joy to be able to do that with you all through the summer. So thanks for showing up. Plus our seniors went back to their elementary school today. And so that's like heavy on my brain tonight as my kid's getting ready to graduate in a few weeks. So, and so is Carla's. So having you on was like, whew, yeah, just a big shifts in our lives, friends. It's good stuff. Good stuff. All right, I'm going to close our recording.